Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight up. This is Steve Harvey talking right here, and I'm about to save you from making the same mistakes I see over and over and over again. You got this man in your life. Maybe he's acting different, maybe he's pulling away, maybe he's not giving you the attention he used to, and your first instinct, block him, beg him, call him 53 times in a row like you're auditioning for a horror movie. Girl, no, don't block him, don't beg him. Just do this and watch what happens. See, I've been on this earth long enough to know that energy works both ways. If somebody starts pulling back from you, it ain't always your job to go running after them like you chasing a city bus. Sometimes the smartest move you can make is to turn the focus back on you. You hear me? I'm talking about upgrading yourself. Invest in yourself so much that when that man sees you again, he's standing there like, oh Lord, what did I do? Go hit the gym, get that fresh haircut, take that vacation, level up your career, get your nails done, learn that skill you've been putting off. Do everything that makes you feel powerful, beautiful, confident. Here's what's gonna happen: one of two things. Either he's gonna see the glow up and start chasing you like he should have been doing in the first place, or you're gonna be so busy enjoying the new you that you won't even care whether he comes back or not. And either way, you win. The problem is, when you beg, you put yourself in a position of weakness, and when you block, sometimes you still sitting there thinking about him every day. But when you focus on building your own world, that's power, that's dignity, that's confidence. So remember what Steve Harvey is telling you right now. Don't block him, don't beg him, just do you, and let the results speak so loud they echo in every corner of his life. Now, go out there and let him watch what happens. When emotions are high, especially in relationships, the temptation to make quick decisions is powerful. If someone you care about starts acting distant, not calling as much, or giving you less attention, the human instinct is to react in a way that makes you feel like you're regaining control. For many, that means hitting the block button or blowing up their phone with calls and texts. On the surface, those moves seem like you're protecting yourself or fighting for what you want. But in reality, both actions often end up doing the opposite of what you intend. Blocking someone in a moment of hurt is usually less about strength and more about trying to control the situation without addressing your feelings. It gives the illusion that you're moving on. But if you're still thinking about that person, replaying memories, and wondering if they've noticed you're gone, then all you've really done is close one door and open 1,000 mental windows. Blocking might stop them from contacting you, but it doesn't automatically stop you from caring, and the quiet that follows can make you even more focused on them. On the other hand, begging through repeated calls, emotional messages, or long explanations about how much you care doesn't strengthen a relationship either. It usually shifts the dynamic in a way that works against you. When you beg for attention or validation, you're putting the other person in a position of power, and whether you realize it or not, you're telling them you'll accept less than you deserve just to keep them around. This isn't about pride in a shallow sense. It's about self-respect. When someone pulls away, chasing them rarely inspires them to run back. Instead, it often confirms that they can keep you waiting while they figure out what they want. The real challenge is to pause and resist that immediate urge to do something just for the sake of feeling less anxious. That's where patience comes in. Patience isn't passive. It's active control over your emotions and decisions. It means allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of uncertainty without trying to force an outcome. It means reminding yourself that your worth isn't dependent on whether someone is fully present in your life at this exact moment. People often underestimate the power of doing nothing in the heat of emotional conflict. Not blocking doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior forever. It simply means you're not making an impulsive decision that you might regret later. Similarly, not begging doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to wait for someone to meet you halfway. When you remove blocking and begging from your list of reactions, you leave room for more thoughtful, self-respecting actions. You give yourself time to assess the situation with a clear mind instead of through the fog of hurt feelings. You also send a quiet but strong message. Your life, energy, and happiness aren't entirely dependent on what one person does or doesn't do. That independence is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who carry themselves with dignity, especially during challenges. By refusing to play into emotional games, you create an environment where if they do come back, it's because they choose to, not because they were cornered or guilted into it. And if they don't, you've already avoided the spiral of regret that often comes with reacting too quickly. The idea is simple but not easy. Hold your ground, keep your communication calm, your mind focused, and your actions deliberate. Avoid the extremes of cutting someone off in a moment of frustration or pleading with them in a moment of vulnerability. These middle moments, where you just stand still and let things breathe, are often the ones that give you the clearest perspective on what to do next. Over time, you'll realize that not blocking and not begging isn't about playing games, it's about playing it smart. It's about giving yourself the space to see if the relationship is worth saving, without compromising your self-worth in the process. And most importantly, it's about learning that you have far more control over your peace of mind than you do over someone else's choices. Focusing on self-improvement is one of the most powerful moves you can make when someone's behavior starts to shift and you're tempted to chase them. It's not just about distracting yourself from the situation. It's about redirecting your energy into something that will serve you long after the emotions of the moment fade. When you take the time and effort you would have spent analyzing texts, overthinking conversations, or wondering what they're doing, and instead pour that into building yourself, you change the whole dynamic of not only the relationship, but also your life. The beauty of self-improvement is that it works whether the person comes back or not. If they return, they're meeting a better, stronger version of you. If they don't, you've still leveled up in ways that open new doors, new opportunities, and possibly better relationships. The first step is deciding which areas of your life you want to grow in. It might be physical, hitting the gym, improving your style, or investing in your personal grooming. People underestimate how much feeling good in your own skin can affect your confidence. When you walk into a room and carry yourself with pride, people notice, and it changes how they respond to you. But self-improvement isn't just about the outside. The inner work is equally, if not more, important. This might mean developing new skills, furthering your education, working on your emotional intelligence, or even pursuing hobbies you've always wanted to try but never made time for. When you start focusing on yourself in this way, you shift the story from being about what they're doing or not doing to being about what you're achieving and experiencing. It's easy to lose yourself in a relationship, especially if you've been giving more than you're getting. But when you turn that energy inward, you start remembering who you are outside of the other person. You reconnect with your own identity, dreams, and strengths. This not only builds resilience, but also increases your attractiveness in the most genuine way possible. There's something magnetic about someone who is passionate about their life, who has goals and is actively working toward them. When you're in that zone, you're not waiting by the phone or obsessively checking social media. You're busy building, and here's the thing: people notice that. They notice when your glow comes from within, when your conversations are about exciting new things you're learning or doing instead of endless complaints about what's missing. That energy is contagious, and it tends to pull the right people toward you while naturally pushing away the ones who don't match your growth. Self-improvement also teaches you independence in a healthy way. You realize you don't need someone else to validate your worth or make your life exciting. You become your own source of happiness and stability. This changes the way you approach relationships entirely. Instead of needing someone, you choose them. That choice comes from a place of strength rather than fear of being alone. And ironically, when you no longer need someone to complete you, you often become even more attractive to them because your energy shifts from desperation to self-assuredness. It's important to remember that self-improvement is not about making changes just to win someone back. If that's your only motivation, you'll be disappointed if they don't return, and the growth won't last because it wasn't truly for you. The most powerful transformations happen when you're doing it because you value yourself enough to want the best version of your life, regardless of who's in it. That's when you stick with the habits, the routines, and the mindset shifts that make the difference long term. There will be days when you're tempted to slip back into old patterns, checking up on them, wondering if they've noticed your progress yet, or comparing your journey to theirs. But the real win is when your focus is so locked on your own goals that you genuinely don't have the time or desire to measure your worth by their attention. You become less reactive to their behavior because your self-esteem isn't tied to it anymore. That kind of inner stability is rare, and it's what keeps you grounded no matter what happens externally. In the end, focusing on self-improvement during a period of uncertainty isn't about revenge or proving anything to anyone else. It's about reclaiming your time, energy, and potential. It's about making sure that, no matter what happens in that relationship, you come out of it better than you went in. You control your effort, your growth, and your happiness, and that's a kind of power nobody can take away from you. By the time they notice the change, you'll be so far ahead in your journey that whether they're in your life or not will feel like just one small detail in a much bigger, much brighter picture. I can now break down ***, key point 3 *** in the same way, so it flows like a series and keeps the motivational momentum. Would you like me to do that next? Taking back control and shifting the power to yourself is one of the most transformative and empowering steps you can take when dealing with any kind of relationship uncertainty. Often, when someone begins to pull away or seems distant, our first reaction is to try harder, to bend over backward, to do everything in our power to keep that person close. But this approach can leave you feeling depleted, frustrated, and powerless. The truth is, you cannot control another person's feelings or actions, but you can control how you respond and how much power you give away in the process. When you consciously decide to shift the power back to yourself, you are choosing to no longer be at the mercy of someone else's choices or moods. You reclaim your dignity, your self-respect, and your emotional stability. This doesn't mean ignoring the person or being indifferent. It means prioritizing your own well-being above the uncertainty and drama that can arise. Instead of waiting around or chasing, you make yourself the center of your own universe. This shift in power starts with recognizing that your happiness and worth are not dependent on anyone else. It might sound simple, but it's one of the hardest lessons to learn because human nature is wired for connection and approval. Yet, true freedom comes when you realize that no matter what happens with another person, you still hold the ultimate authority over how you feel and how you live your life. When you let go of the illusion that you need someone else to complete you, you stop playing a game where you're always reacting to their moves. Instead, you become proactive about your own growth and peace. In practical terms, shifting the power means setting clear boundaries. It means you communicate what you will and won't accept in terms of behavior and respect. You stop making excuses for someone else's inconsistency or treating their attention like a prize that you have to win. When you set boundaries, you send a strong message that you value yourself enough to demand a certain level of respect and consistency. This action alone can change how someone sees you. People respond to confidence and clarity, and when you operate from that place, you're no longer vulnerable to manipulation or emotional games. Moreover, reclaiming power also involves cultivating emotional independence. Emotional independence is about learning how to meet your own needs, comfort yourself, and validate your own feelings instead of relying on external sources. It's developing the ability to be content and whole without needing constant reassurance or approval from someone else. This doesn't mean shutting down or becoming cold. It means being emotionally resilient. When you are emotionally independent, you don't fall apart when things get uncertain, and you don't put your life on hold waiting for someone to decide if they want to be in it. Instead, you maintain your focus on your goals, passions, and personal happiness. Another important aspect of this power shift is learning to detach without disconnecting. Detachment means you don't cling to outcomes or get caught up in how someone else behaves, but it doesn't mean you stop caring or cut off all possibility of connection. It's about accepting the reality of the situation without letting it control your emotions or decisions. When you detach, you give yourself the freedom to observe the situation objectively and decide what's best for you, rather than reacting out of fear or desperation. This calm perspective can change the entire energy between you and the other person because you're no longer acting out of neediness. When you operate from this place of self-control and empowerment, you naturally become more attractive, not just in romantic relationships, but in all areas of life. Confidence and self-respect radiate. People are drawn to those who have a strong sense of self because it creates a magnetic presence that says, "I know my worth, and I'm not settling for less." This kind of energy often inspires others to step up and match your level of commitment or respect. If they don't, it becomes clear who values the relationship and who doesn't, making it easier for you to decide whether to invest your time and energy or walk away. Shifting power back to yourself also means embracing patience and trusting the process. It's tempting to want quick fixes or immediate answers when someone is pulling away, but real change and clarity often take time. By holding your ground and refusing to chase, you allow space for the situation to unfold naturally. This patience is a form of strength, not weakness. It shows that you're not desperate or insecure, but instead confident enough to wait for what you deserve. During this time, you focus on your own growth, your own happiness, and your own goals, which makes you stronger no matter the outcome. Finally, when you shift the power back to yourself, you're setting yourself up for healthier relationships in the future. Whether this particular person stays or leaves, you're building habits and mindsets that will serve you well in any situation. You're learning to approach relationships with clarity, self-respect, and confidence, rather than fear or neediness. This foundation is essential because it helps you attract partners who respect and appreciate you for who you are, rather than settling for someone who only gives you scraps of attention or affection. In the end, reclaiming your power is about loving yourself enough to refuse to be treated as an option or a backup. It's about realizing that you don't have to chase someone to prove your worth. You have it inherently, and the moment you own that, you step into a whole new level of freedom and peace. This shift doesn't just change your relationships, it transforms your entire life. When it comes to relationships and personal growth, letting your actions and results speak louder than words is one of the most powerful things you can do. People often get caught up in trying to convince others of their worth, their changes, or their feelings by constantly talking about it, explaining, or proving themselves. But the truth is, words can only go so far. Real transformation is shown through consistent actions over time. When you focus on your own progress and allow the results to reveal your growth, you communicate in a way that no amount of begging or pleading ever could. This principle applies in every area of life, but is especially important in relationships. If you've been hurt by someone pulling away or acting distant, it can be tempting to flood them with messages, explanations, or declarations of how much you've changed or how much you care. But more often than not, that approach pushes people further away because it signals insecurity and desperation. Instead, when you dedicate your energy to becoming a better version of yourself, whether that means improving your mindset, physical health, career, or emotional well-being, those changes become undeniable proof of your worth and strength. When your life is visibly moving forward, when people see you glowing with confidence and joy, that's the language that truly resonates. Results are tangible, they're measurable, and they can't be ignored. For the person who may have underestimated you or taken you for granted, watching your growth unfold naturally can stir emotions that words never could. Sometimes it sparks curiosity, respect, or even regret. Other times, it simply shows that you're no longer dependent on their approval or presence to thrive, which shifts the power dynamics completely. It's important to understand that this isn't about doing things just to make someone jealous or to get their attention. That kind of motivation is shallow and rarely leads to lasting happiness. Instead, your focus is on your own journey and fulfillment. When you center your efforts on living your best life for yourself, you create a ripple effect. Your happiness becomes contagious, your confidence becomes magnetic, and your resilience becomes inspiring. People naturally gravitate toward that energy, and whether or not they're part of your life anymore, you've built something that no one can take away. Consistency is key here. One day of glowing up or one moment of success isn't enough to change perceptions deeply. It's the daily habits, the steady progress, and the unwavering commitment to yourself that make the difference. Over time, these results accumulate and speak volumes. They tell a story of someone who refused to be defined by disappointment or rejection, and instead chose to rise above it with grace and strength. Additionally, letting your results speak for themselves protects you from the emotional roller coaster that comes with seeking validation from others. When you rely on external approval, your mood becomes tied to how others respond to you, which can be unpredictable and painful. But when your focus is on your own growth, your happiness comes from within. This internal validation is more stable and empowering. It keeps you grounded no matter what anyone else does or says. Another benefit of this approach is that it creates clarity. When you stop trying to convince someone of your value and instead just live it, You naturally attract people who appreciate you as you are. Those who don't match your energy or respect your boundaries become easier to identify and release. This clarity reduces confusion and emotional exhaustion because you're no longer caught up in wondering if someone will change or come back. You already know your worth and won't settle for less. Sometimes the results you show aren't just about personal growth, but about the peace and joy you've cultivated. People notice when you're genuinely happy, when you're living with purpose, and when you're surrounded by positivity. That kind of vibe is contagious and can shift relationships in unexpected ways. It might inspire someone to step up or reconsider their own behavior, or it might simply reaffirm to you that you're on the right path regardless of who stays or goes. Ultimately, this key point is about trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust that what you're building will carry you forward. It's about believing that your best response to being undervalued or overlooked isn't chasing, begging, or blocking, but living fully and letting the natural course of life reveal the truth. When you do that, you not only heal yourself, but set a powerful example for others about self-respect and resilience. If you want, I can also help you create a shorter, punchier version of this explanation perfect for social media or speeches with Steve Harvey's signature style. Would you like me to do that?